Hi, I'm Dan with DSO Tactical, inventor of the Simu-Trigger, and today we're going to install the Simu-Trigger into your AR lower, so make sure you watch this video all the way to its completion, as there are tips and tricks to make sure the installation goes smoothly. The first thing you're going to need, safety glasses in case things don't go smoothly, because there are ball bearings under spring pressure that can and will go flying if this thing flies apart if you put it together wrong. Make sure you get yourself some safety glasses before we continue. Before we even start with installation, we want to inspect the package. And what we're going to be looking for is that the trigger has not come dislodged from the detent holes. There are going to be two ball bearings in two opposing holes, you will see right here in the trigger. And you want to make sure it's still rotating on those ball bearings in the detent holes. If it is not, do not open the package. This is a thicker plastic designed to contain the ball bearings should it get dislodged in shipping or handling. So make sure that it is firmly in the detent holes and seated before you proceed to opening the package. Once you've ascertained that the Simu-Trigger in the package is in the proper position, then go ahead and get your safety glasses on. We'll continue to the next phase. And here we have an AR lower. Obviously I've taken it off from the upper just for demonstration purposes, and I've already removed the mil-spec trigger system that is in there, gotten rid of the trigger control group, firing group. And so the only thing we're going to retain out of that fire control group is we're going to grab one of these standard trigger pins. Good idea to get the excess oil off. We want to keep that dry if at all possible. And then we're going to be ready to proceed after we install our safety glasses here, just in case things go bad. Alright, so we have our lower here. Again, we're going to go into fire just to give us a bit more room to work. Now, the Simu-Trigger is naturally, because of the spring up here, it's naturally going to want to pull forward. That's where we want it, in this position. And all you're going to do is just feed the trigger in through the trigger slot. And don't push it. Be very, very gentle. And as it gets to this point about here, it's going to want to stop. And all you do is, it kind of takes 3 points of contact, but you're going to slightly rotate the trigger back and slide it under the safety selector. And you can see it's moving there, and all we have to do now is line up the pins. That's it. And now once we have a pin in, there is no possibility of ball bearings flying out anymore just because it's captive. So long as that pin is in there, everything is now contained. And that's all there is to it. Now if you come to a situation where as you're bringing it down here you cannot get alignment on these trigger pin holes, it seems as if the Simu-Trigger is too high, what may be going on is your lower is not milled out to the standard mil-spec depth. These are very precisely made. In that instance, the Simu-Trigger is going to require a bit of fitment for your particular lower. And what you're going to want to do is sand or file the bottom of the trigger support housing along this edge, just so the trigger can fit a little bit lower in your lower. So just along this edge, normally it takes barely enough to get rid of the 3D printing marks. So you can use a file or sandpaper, and as needed along that edge. So when you drop it in, those holes should line up absolutely perfect. And here's where you can actually flip it to safe. And all you have to do is slide it back and forth, because now the trigger will only go up to the safety. And make sure that you have total alignment before you go ahead and try to install. And you want to make sure that it is perfect. You don't want to put any bind on the system, otherwise the action of the trigger will not be proper. So this is a critical step to make sure it's going to fit properly in your lower and doesn't require any sanding. Once you're happy with that, of course, then continue with the install. What I can't stress enough is when you're starting this, do not force anything. It should go nice and easy. Remember, the only thing holding this whole system together right now are those ball bearings under spring pressure in those detent holes. So you have two ball bearings, a spring in the middle pushing out, and the ball bearings sit into these holes. That's the only thing keeping this together. If you pop that out, ball bearings go flying, and then we have to deal with that. So very, very gentle. There's no reason to push or rush any of this, and once you get the hang of it, they drop in just as sweet as you please. Drop in and out, but the biggest thing to remember is the trigger to get in and out has to be forward. But after it's getting close to the fully seat in there, it's got to rotate back a bit. So as you're going in, we'll do it again, it's going to want to stop there. Don't push it. Got to rotate the trigger ever so slightly. and be gentle with it. Takes almost no pressure to do this. And there you have it. We've installed the Simu-Trigger in your lower, checking proper fitment and function. And the last function check is simply going to be on safety. Nothing happens, flip it to fire, and you're going to get the standard trigger action. Back to safety, obviously nothing happens. If you have any questions or concerns, do feel free to give us a shout. We check our email constantly. We will be happy to walk you through any problems or take care of any issues that do come up. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your dry fire training.